after a splendid qualifying session yesterday, we witnessed Han Lichao go fastest among all the other drivers, managing to blast clear by over and nearly 6.5 tenths per second ahead of PRC's Darrell Young, was in the late last seat in his car in second fastest ahead of Wang Hao, who is a good goal. As we think, of course, be making their way to the track that will be, of course, coming. This is the calendar, and but. The June 28-29 stint, and coming up, a trip through the Beijing streets on October 19th. Is going to be our final round later on in the weekend, but we are going to be looking forward to seeing the drivers come through down towards turn 1 to kick us off for the first race of the weekend. On the front row, like I said, will be Han Lichao, Darrell Young as well on the front row, with a crew of cars further back in. We've got a very busy, packed grid at the moment with all it's on track, and we can now head to the explainer with Philly.
Hey everyone！ 现在我坐在的就是本场比赛的安全车内，这辆安全车就是 Lotus Neo 了，是不是非常的帅气呢？那么就和我一起来观看本场的 SRO GT 比赛吧，大家不要错过。在上海成功举办第1回合比赛之后 ，SRO GT 来到了平潭如意湖国际赛道，在这个位于福建的美丽小岛上。 将有21台 GT4 赛車參與到比賽當中，車手們全都躍躍欲試。
嗰個賽事規模比我哋以前可能大啲啊！我哋好多車手啊，譬如外地嘅車手啊、中國車手啊、香港、澳門啊、台灣啊，咁大家一齊喺呢度一齊競技咧，會提升我哋嘅技術啊，各樣嘢會比較好啲咯，係咯。
在這次的比賽周當中，還有一位特別的車手。 他是一位演員，跨界做了車手，來這裡追逐他童年的夢想。
就從小就知道 Lotus 的底盤調教是非常的，非常頂的，所以很想感受一下，學學怎麼去駕馭這台車。
在這裡還有很多經驗豐富的亞洲知名車手參與到比賽當中。
當然是爭取發揮到自己最極致的狀態，然後包括。 車隊也是一樣，然後我們也是爭取奔着冠軍去努力。剛才這個練習也收穫了不少數據啊，所以現在等着要跟工程師一起分析，來看看如何去平衡這個最優的一個調教出來。
It's great, I think, to see this big of grids. You know, we saw the first race had 35 cars. This race has 22 cars. It's good for in China to have some more races, especially grassroots racing. To improve and get better, and I think this is a great start with the GT4. It's a perfect category for newer drivers. You know, maybe one day they'll drive GT3, and you know, but it's a great level, and yeah, it's competitive. The drivers were fast and it was fun.
I was looking for a long time already for a GT4 racing series in China, where they have a big starting field and some competition. So, and here we have over 20 cars. Last time in Shanghai over 30. So. That is really fun as a driver. You want to have some competition, people you can battle with, and the series definitely give you that.
經驗豐富的車手、新晉車手、明星跨界車手、嶄新的賽事和全新的街道賽道，這個週末將給大家帶來一個精彩絕倫、難忘的體驗。
Championship that of course came to life back at Shanghai earlier on this year, and no greater honour than to be part of the weekend for the Chinese Grand Prix. And now with full momentum we come here to Pingtan. Here are the temperatures, not quite as warm as yesterday. Of course, it stood at 32 degrees in terms of the highs, and the sunshine once again out across the circuit. Not quite as bright as before, track temperature quite sensible. We did have quite a bit of wind yesterday, but it seems to have died down ever so slightly. You can see from the movement of the trees, it's not as ferocious as it was yesterday. So the drivers probably taking a little bit of respite from that, and I'm sure that'll just lead to extra positivity prior to the race start. As I alluded to, it's very likely we will be seeing a third formation lap undertaken due to the maintenance work that was carried out on the circuit, obviously for the driver's safety, so that they can understand the lengths around this circuit as well. Not many drivers racing around the Pingtan circuit all the time. We're going to head back to Pauline though.
韩立潮，恭喜你拿到了头位发车。不过你旁边呢是非常强劲的欧阳若曦。那么在发车的时候有哪些特别需要注意的事项呢？
发车的时候，因为昨天赛事一直在跟我们强调安全，因为这条赛道其实有它比较特别的地方，所以我还是祝愿所有的对手都是安全完赛。所以我在起步的时候尽可能保住自己的位置，然后也希望可以比较安全的顺利通过1号弯、2号弯。
好，祝你有一个好成绩。I just asked him because he started from P1, but next to him is just Dario Young, also very experienced driver. What will be his approach? He said it's very important for the safety and stay on his position. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Pauline, for that. Of course, it's going to be a huge fight between these two at the front end of the order. Dario Young only managing to marshal in his best time right towards the bitter end. It still wasn't enough to take P1 away from Han Liqiao at the close of qualifying. Han Liqiao, despite being over 6 tenths, over 6¼ tenths clear of Dario Young in that pole position spot, still wasn't happy with the performance. That is what he said in his post-qualifying interview. As we now take a look at Han Liqiao, now currently sat in the cockpit of his Toyota GR Supra GT4 Evo. Of course, he'll be looking to get a big jump off the line in order to give himself the best chance of staying ahead of Dario Young in towards turn 1. As you can see, the umbrella's out in force. Obviously, just trying to protect the those in those grid places from the sun that has been beaming out across the weekend. But like I said, not quite as ferocious as it was yesterday. But still, of course, playing its part for the drivers, especially when they're wearing those heavy overalls and the helmet as well, accompanying that. But elsewhere on the grid, Yong Ian Veng, of course, representing the Son Veng racing team, new here this weekend, along with Kan Che Wei and Li Shitting as well. Of course, we arrive here with 9 manufacturers lining up on to the grid, including Lotus, Ginetta, BMW, Toyota, McLaren, Audi, Mercedes, Aston Martin and Porsche. 21 drivers, of course, lining up onto the grid, with 11 returning back from Shanghai and 10 new ones as well, with nations, China, Macau, Chinese Taipei and Germany all represented on the grid. The sole German driver being Moritz Berenberg, of course, sat at the top of the AM Class Championship after taking back-to-back class victories at Shanghai last time out. He'll be looking to do 3 times running. Of course, he's going to be right at the top end as well, starting 5th on the grid ahead of this first race of the weekend, and no question is going to be looking to lift himself aloft to the top end of the podium. We'll of course have to wait and see whether he can achieve that. Of course, there's many areas on the track that really do open up overtaking. The moves coming in towards turn 1 and turn 2, quite sharp and snappy through turns 1 and turns 2, where you meet the hairpin, and then through towards turn 3. In the meantime, though, we can head back to Feline.
Hey, Morris, you are still leading the M class, and any pressures for this race?
Yes, definitely, because the guys behind me here are also really fast, and here in this circuit, overtaking is really difficult. So you need to take some quite high risk for overtaking. So need to make sure that I safely defend and hope the others also play fair.
Okay, have a good race.
Yeah, thank you.
刚刚我问到 Morris 呢，他这场比赛有没有什么压力呢？他提到，的确有，因为他后面的车手都比他快，所以他呢要保持好位置，然后要注意安全。Back to you guys.
Thank you, Feline. That's Moritz Berenberg, who we were just talking about, actually the Shanghai 8 Hours 4th place sitter from last year, also taking part in the GT Sprint Challenge last campaign as well. Obviously just hammering up the facts, as we've obviously alluded to, that overtaking is tricky around this circuit. There are moments when you come into the heavy braking zones that I alluded to, through turns 1, turns 2, 3, 4 and 5, especially in that first sector. Then you've got the long sweeping run coming out of turn 9. You've got quite a tricky section of curbs there as well, coming through turn 6, 7 and 8, but out of turn 9 through turn 10 around that sweeping left-hander, you then all of a sudden meet turn 11 where it opens up through turn 12. Again, another opportunity for things to go wrong, but also at the same time for opportunities for that vital overtaking place. So that's going to be their mission. Try and close down to Han Lishao, who will be starting on that pole position spot. Elsewhere on the grid, of course, we do have Trung Chi-Sean starting from 6th place by Moritz Berenberg. We'll see whether he can get a decent start for Level Motorsports, who come here with their Audi R8 LMS GT4 Evo as part of the 9 manufacturers we do have on the grid for this race today. Of course, we do have 2 races to bring you across the course of today, with the next one coming up later on this afternoon and just leading in towards quarter to 2 later on. But we can now head back down to Berlin for another interview.
李志廷第一次来到平潭如意湖赛道来比赛，那么比赛马上就要开始了，自己的心情如何？现在比赛有什么样的一个对自己有什么期待？
我觉得今天的首要任务是完赛，然后其次就是累积经验。对，因为平潭这条赛道真的是挺难的。而且对于我们这台车来说，它的挑战是挺高的，因为我们这个车的底盘不太喜欢这么颠簸的路况。那今天全部都是颠簸的路况，尤其是P10那大左弯，所以就是要求自己平稳心态，然后就是把已学会的能应用，能学更多就更好这么一个状态。
祝你有一个好成绩。I just asked him how, because it's his first time racing Pingtan. He said the most important is to bring this car safe and finish this race, and also collect a lot of experience from this. And he said that the road is a little bit bumpy, a little bit challenge for him, so he tried to do his best. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Feline, for that. Obviously, Li Jiting starting from 13th place for Team Pegasus, and he's absolutely right, especially around this circuit. It's important to get the necessary experience, hence why they're running the extra formation laps as well here in this championship. But of course, Li Jiting driving the Lotus Emira round the circuit. Give him, obviously, the very best of luck, best wishes ahead of this race. Obviously, a touring car, sports car driver, or sports cup driver back from last year, now moving into GT4 technology for the first time, but seems to have harnessed it relatively well, finishing ahead of some decent talents. Lau Kim Hao, of course, part of the RPM racing team, will be starting behind him in 14th, as well as Wong Cheng Tu, who is 6.6 away from our top time set by Han Lid Chao at the moment. Li Jiting, of course, 3.6 away from Han Lid Chao at the top of the classification come the end of qualifying, and that just goes to show really how precise and how quick you have to be around this very technical street circuit. Now, yet again, the crowd start flurrying inwards, just conversing with the drivers before they then go out. Of course, teams also be just offering words of wisdom to their drivers too, just making sure all the checks around the cars are complete and making sure there's nothing untoward before they then commence racing. But elsewhere on the grid, of course, Moritz Berenberg will obviously wait and see whether he can harness his car. He, of course, represented the Maxmore and W&S Motorsport crew. Of course, we spoke to him earlier on. He's got Cao Zulung just in front of him at the moment, with Wang Hao representing, of course, the double-banded Toyota Gazoo Racing China team, who had a fair representation last time out when we went racing at Shanghai. That also included Yu Rao and also Cao Quickon, who's not both are not here with us today, but of course we do have our 2 silver class drivers represented at the very head of the order. And of course the horn's ringing out from the spectators watching on from the grandstands as well. Many GT fans across the globe enjoying plenty of SRO action this weekend. It's not just the GT Cup that is in full swing at the moment. We also do have the Spa 24-hour going on at the moment. So it's a really, really big weekend for the SRO Motorsports Group. And we do thank you for joining us here this weekend as we look to get set to race here around Pingtan. Many of the spectators as well lining up in the grandstands. We've got the teams and their crew and the squads now basically vacating the circuit ever so steadily, now moving into the off-track section, heading in towards the pit lane. And as you can see, the Lotus safety car lining up at the front as well, just making sure everything is in order. We've got a 30-minute race to bring you as well, to take us through the course of our first one in the day. Of course, we do have another one coming up later on this afternoon. So plenty of points on offer. And of course, they want to try and hit the magic 50-point number, ideally, coming in off the back of this one. Of course, as we mentioned, Pingtan, our second stop in our 4-part calendar, with Beijing coming up later on in the season. That will be in October, partnered up with GT World Challenge Asia, powered by AWS, of course. And then, of course, we have the Greater Bay Area GT Cup finale at Macau ahead of round 4 as well. As we now take a look at Wang Hao, starting third on the grid, also representing the Toyota Gazoo Racing China team that are in dominant form here so far this weekend, certainly coming off the back of qualifying. And Wang Hao will be hoping that he can also muster his very best in representing the team, the 3-time reigning China Endurance GT4 champion, who is well versed to this machinery, and in race trim, which is largely different to qualifying trim, he might be able to bring his very best. We'll wait and see whether he can in a bid to unseat his own teammate from the top spot out on track. The number 89, that is of course the car belonging to Cao Zulong, who is currently sat in the seat from China, and driving the Toyota GR Supra GT4 Evo 2 for Level Motorsports. And he is a 2023-2024 TCR Chinese Taipei Series driver, moving out of touring cars as well into that GT4 racing car. Quite a few of the touring car originaries coming into this series, and just allows them really to open up that throttle. And the GT4s arguably just as, if not more, physical than the GT3 cars, a little bit more nimble in the corners as well, because they are built slightly smaller than their GT3 counterparts. As Chuang Chi-shun gives us a thumbs up from inside his cockpit as well in the number 26 for Level Motorsports, as well in the Audi R8 LMS GT4 Evo, also part of the China GT Championship this year, and the Macau GBGT last year. And all of these drivers will be hoping to head to Macau at the end of this season, and a bright future definitely in store for the SRO GT Cup Series. And long may it continue. It certainly has been met with a lot of positivity, not just from those inside SRO, but also in the motorsport world, as another arm, another branch to the huge interest that has been levied into GT and sports car racing as of late, with GT3s popular than ever, and also accompanying that, of course, the GT4 technology as well. As we take a look at this very picturesque view of this stunning city here in Pingtan. We are here at the city circuit here in the Zhejiang area in Pingtan County, the Fujian province of China. Of course, this circuit frequented on the calendars of the China Endurance and F4 China Championships, with, of course, the scenic routes that the driver will be, or the drivers will be treated to as they make their way around this street circuit. They do have the panoramic views of the azure waters of the East China Sea, which offer almost something of a postcard, really, as you look at it. But now the teams all being told to vacate the circuit, so now the engines start to pick up as the crew out on track now issue final instructions, letting the drivers know that they're about to get off for the formation lap. Of course, remember, 3 formation laps will be undertaken, so after that third one we will be underway under a rolling start. Now we're taking a look just behind those runners on the grid at the moment. You can see the Lotus Emira, the Audi as well, just certainly sat on the third row of the grid. That is, of course, Chuang Chi-shun, and of course alongside him Yang Mengjiao in the Yi Sven Racing. And it'll be the Lotus safety car that will very shortly peel off from the front end of the grid, with the cars in wake looking to follow as well. And we are now underway on the formation lap as the number 33 and our pole sitter Han Liqiao moves off the grid. The Greater Bay Area GT Cup winner from last year. Here's the starting grid. Han Liqiao starts pole, alongside him Daryl O. Young in second place for Team TRC. Toyota Gazoo Racing China also have a second car just in behind. That is, of course, Wang Hao, who'll be starting alongside Cao Zulong for Level Motorsports in fourth. Next up, Moritz Berenberg, top am at the moment, with Chuang Chi-shun in sixth place for Level Motorsports. We then move down into seventh place very shortly with Yang Mengjiao alongside Huang Kuxiang, who'll be lining up in eighth place for Team Pegasus In the 9th spot, the 300 plus, par by 300 plus racing, Lu Xianzi, who was fastest in practice, met with the number 10th place, Sai Chang Ta for Level Motorsports as well in car 58. Car 6, that will be, of course, Liang Ian Veng starting 11th. 12th is Kan Che Wei on the 6th row of the grid with him as well. In terms of the 13th place on the grid, Li Jitling, who we just recently spoke to, with 14th place going to Lau Kim Ho for RPM Racing Team in the number 77 car. Next up in 15th place, LW World Racing Team, lining up alongside Wu Pei as well. Team Pegasus, of course, Wong Chek 2 lining up in 15th at the start of this race. In the 17th spot, it's Miguel Lei as part of the LW World Racing Team as well. Wong Wai Hong for Level Motorsports in 18th on the 9th row of the grid. 10th row of the grid, it goes to Kenny Chung Wing Keung as well in 19th. 20th, Ip Un Hao down in 20th spot as well. And last of the running cars, 21 car grid, Lei Kik Meng for RPM Motor Racing as well. So now the cars lined up on the grid, now making their way around on the formation lap. Very soon, of course, we will be underway, but of course, we'll be undertaking 3 of these in particular. So they now make their way around this course at the moment, just in-swinging through the lefts and rights, coming out of turns 11, 12, and 13. This is, of course, the chicane where you can really hammer that inside curve, and we've seen, of course, we saw it a bit yesterday, some of the curbing out of turn 4 was actually lifted off the circuit. That is how precise these drivers have been hitting the curbs as they make their way around the circuit, trying to maximise their apex speed. But of course, very well managed by the marshals who are here and on hand to ensure the racing goes ahead in a nice, safe manner, so that we can enjoy them going side by side furthermore through the course of this race as they now commence the second part of the formation lap, coming in towards turn 1 now. That is, of course, the long straight. The pit lane, just to note as well, folks, coming in before turn 14. You can make your way to the right and then straight round, then making your way down the long straight. The pit lane, incidentally, as we were looking at it just then, that long straight is just to the left. And then the drivers can pit out as well. But of course, no pit stops required here in this sprint race that spans over 30 minutes. No driver changes. It's a straight sprint to the finish line. And a little reminder as to who has been fastest over the weekend. Of course, we know that Han Le Chao was fastest in qualifying, but Daolo Young, who stands alongside him, beat him to the punch in Saturday morning practice. So there's still pace to be had, certainly on part of Daolo Young, who up to that point in morning practice had set the fastest time of a 1:21.788. But ultimately, for the first time, we hit a 1:20.781 that Han Le Chao managed to bring to the table, therefore making him the P1 sitter. We can just see there a little bit of weaving. The driver's just trying to get the heat into the tyres. Of course, we are using the Pirelli rubber, of course, this weekend as well. As we now watch them come through the next right-hander, now swinging into the next left out of turn 13 as well. Like I said, 9 manufacturers lining up onto the grid. The drivers just making sure that their car is up to optimal temperature, ensuring that they're managing to lay down some decent surface heat as the safety car now begins to peel away. As the drivers now come down towards the final corner, it looks like we'll very shortly be getting underway as we're now into 2 lanes that are now line astern, with on the left-hand side, or the way we're looking at it now on the left, it is going to be Han Le Chao, and of course on the right, Daolo Young. They now make their way up towards the line. Looks like it's pedal to the metal, and it's go, 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 go. Great start for our 2 front runners at the moment. Daolo Young on the right-hand side in the Mercedes, meeting Han Le Chao for the Toyota Gazoo Racing Team on the inside as they fly through out of turn 1 through towards turn 2. Han Le Chao still consolidating that lead spot. As of this moment in time, they're still side by side coming through the first sector. A nice clean getaway though up at the front as they now peel on through. The Audi R8 LMS GT4 also further back, just trying to squirm its way through as well. Not a great start by that AM driver whatsoever as they now peel through the first sector in towards the in-swinger at turn 10 as well. There's a Lotus Emira now going wheel to wheel as well further down the order as they now make their way through the slalom, through the sectors now, still wheel to wheel as they cruise on through the 87 part of this. That is Yang Meng Jiao trying to make his way through right now in his Aston Martin AMR Vantage as now they cruise down. There's a BMW as well, just cruising now wheel to wheel with 2 luminous yellow rear ends on those cars as they pirouette around turn 10. And now coming into the braking zone, that is the number 6 belonging to Sonveng Racing Team, Liang Ian Veng in the BMW N4, Macau Road Sport Challenge winner back in 2015, and back here showing exactly what he's made of. A great move indeed to move himself up the order. It's still Han Liqiao though kicking on. The top 4 all silver class with Moritz Berenberg leading the AM class at the moment. In fact, Berenberg's moved up into 4th place, so a great start for the German driver. Now up on the cusp of the top 3 and getting a really, really good start as now we watch them come side by side on the way down in towards turn 1. I think that was the number 3 there of Huang Kusheng in the Lotus Emira, who's coming under fire this time, and that is coming from the 87 of Yang Meng Chiao, who's unable to get past in this instance. It's still at the moment the Lotus Emira hanging on at the moment of Huang Kusheng for Team Pegasus, who was racing in TCR China over the last 2 years, and he's going to need every ounce of that side-by-side and, should we say, rugged racing experience in order to hold this man back in return. As now the 87 has a look around the outside, looking for the better line as he sweeps through out of the apex. And now through the chicane, he's now going to make his way out. And there's the 55 stopped on track. There's Kenny Chung Wing Kyung in the Ginetta G55, who's come to a grinding halt there. Massive shame for the man from Hong Kong. He's come to a big stopper out on track. Not ideal at all. And not the way he probably would have foreseen his race going, I think, right now with 25 minutes still to go. We've still got a long way, though, till the checkered flag, folks. And remember, like I said, no stops in between. This is going to be a straight run to the finish line. Han Liqiao still out in front, and he's starting to really cultivate this lead at the moment ahead of Darrell Young. There is the Mercedes, just sat in 2nd place. Cao Zhu Lung also looking very strong as well. There is the Porsche of Moritz Berenberg as well in the 718 Cayman. We'll take a look at the replay this time. So here is the moment where we saw the 55 just make its way over the curbs. And now in towards the next left. That is Kenny at the moment, who's now coming through the left-hander. Obviously had a bit of an uncomfortable run by the looks of it coming through the first sector. And came to a steady halt, it certainly seems. So whether there was a power issue or something of an electric nature that was a concern with the car, I'm not quite sure. But not a great way to start this race nonetheless, as we now watch as the cars make their way around the turn 10 section out of turn 9. Moritz Berenberg now cultivating a decent gap, but Wang Hao coming under pressure from Chuang Shishun, who's on his tail in the Audi R8 LMS at the moment. Went down through the next lap, but a second win being found here by Wang Hao, who, like I said, representing the Toyota Gazoo racing team. Not a great start, down from 3rd place and into 5th as we got a little bit of debris out on the circuit. My goodness, so some car has had, well, at the very least it's going to be a little bit lighter, but losing what looks to be one of the rear bumpers, I think, of the car, which is never ideal. Obviously the marshals have to clear that, and that's coming through the I think that's final portion of circuit before we then reach turn 14, I think, or maybe it's coming through out of the first sector. Actually, no, it is, yeah, coming out of turn 4 in towards turn 5 and 6. So that's where that debris is currently sat at the moment. So we watch them make their way through the first sector in towards the left-hander, now cruising out of turn 9 very soon, and then around towards turn 10 as we now watch them go nose to tail. Chuang Shishun certainly not giving Wang Hao any respite at the moment. The 21 in silver class coming under some really severe fire here from one of our AM class drivers, and it's Moritz Berenberg who leads the way and has done a miraculous job. It was a little slow though coming out of turn 9 and through turn 10. This will open up the door for Wang Hao to go up the inside as they go wheel to wheel on the run down through towards the next left-hander, soon to come in towards turn 11, and nose in front here now for Wang Hao, who sends his Toyota car up into that 4th place, back at least grabbing a place back from the 2 that he had lost before. And Moritz Berenberg still top of the AM class, but forfeits that 4th spot, and now it's Wang Hao who sits in that position, and now Chuang Shishun on the back of a fellow AM class driver. Berenberg will be hoping to recover, but still P5, and like I said, still leading AM class, but he might come under attack now this time from Chuang Shishun, who's going to go late on the brakes in towards the first corner in his Audi R8 LMS GT4, but unable to make it happen, and indeed had to pull his punch ever so slightly as they now come through turn 3 and turn 4 again. But certainly this does not mean that Moritz Berenberg right now will take this line down. He will look to maintain his pace and stay on the rear of Wang Hao at the moment, who is still off the podium. Cao Zulung, who managed to move up into that 3rd spot ahead of Wang Hao, a very aggressive line taken there from Moritz Berenberg, I think, in not just attack, but also in an effort to defend from the Audi behind, as they now come in towards turn 10. Now, once again, just look at the pace in this Audi R8. He's taken a tighter line, looking to try and edge himself closer to the back of the Cayman. So they're now heading towards the segment at turns 11, 12 and 13, where they'll hit that semi-chicane. And back on the power straight away. The Audi more committed on those curbs than the 718 Cayman. They head down towards turn 14, and now very slowly but surely Wang Hao starting to almost peel away from the Porsche sat behind. So you'll hopefully see less and less of the Am battle further back, which has really disrupted his run now at Cao Zulong, has been given free rein to just move up in third place. As now we see once again Chuang Qishun looking up the inside at turn 1, through past Moritz Berenberg now, and now leads the Am class here in the SRO GT Cup here at Pingtan, China for round 2. Race 1 with a tail coming out there on the Audi, and very nearly got pivoted. Brilliant car control to maintain the car on track and not seeing it rear out, but he's onto the grass and handing the place straight back to Moritz Berenberg. Deary me, a major mistake there from Chuang Qishun, who had a huge opportunity to maintain that Am lead, and also P5 overall, but it's been handed straight back to Moritz Berenberg now, who is now going to swing around turn 10. But the Audi still very much there. He's done brilliantly to recover, as Chuang Qishun just got a little bit overzealous, I think, coming through the first sector, and now coming through the middle, looking a little bit more relaxed, but can't afford to stay like that for too long, because obviously the big matter here is trying to stay within this Am class fight for the overall win. But Moritz Berenberg looking to make it 3 wins in a row in SRO GT Cup competition. Here's a replay from the start. It was a brilliant getaway for both of our top front row sitters as they made their way down through towards turn 1. Further back, of course, we can see what happened to the sister Toyota Gazoo Racing Team driver. Of course, unfortunately for Wang Hao, just dropped through the field. Eventually, he found himself in 5th place and had to somehow recover. It was a great start for Moritz Berenberg, who managed to move his way into 4th. And then eventually, of course, we saw Cao Zulong also moving through into that 3rd place. A little bit of contact there, some rubbing coming through out of turns 2, 3 and 4. But I have to say, a very decent start by all concerned. But Han Liqiao still very much in control and in charge up at the very head of the order. Daolo Young also doing a great job. It is now starting to be moved up upon by Cao Zulong. So it does look like the 89 could become more of a threat here for Level Motorsports, and driving his Toyota GR Supra GT4 Evo 2 closer and closer to the back of the Mercedes-AMG GT4. As now we watch as our race leader now looks to make his way through the soiree of corners, already lapping cars in the process. Of course, we saw Kenny Chung Wing Kyung, who's currently at the back of this 21 car contingent after his slow moment now being left at the rear, as now we see as Daolo Young now starts to make his way through the field as well. Some very striking liveries across this grid here for this second round of the SRO GT Cup. They certainly do not disappoint in this championship where it comes to livery designs. And there is, of course, the moment where the Audi, in the meantime, for a brief spell, managed to move himself up into the Am lead, but Berenberg was hot on his tail. And Wang Hao, who's now in 4th, of course, was tussling with these two, but Chuang Qishun eventually found himself in the grass, and it opened the door for Moritz Berenberg to retake that P5 place and the Am lead back in return, as we rejoin live pictures here right now. The 927 in 5th spot, still with that lead, but a little swapper there from Moritz Berenberg as he looks to negotiate his way through the travel now. It's not just Chuang Qishun, obviously, who's having a shaky moment out there on this Pingtan circuit, and Moritz himself obviously alluded to the fact that this circuit is a challenge, but he's starting to feel the challenge now here at this moment in time. This is certainly a very ferocious battle over this Am lead, and the Audi is certainly giving Moritz Berenberg a few reminders around this circuit at the moment, though even he in return has faced his very own as they come through out of turn 10, down in towards turn 11, 12 and 13 once again. Through the chicane they go, really committing to those curbs. This time, I'd say the Audi driver's far more aggressive where it comes to take cornering. The 718 Cayman just not looking to get too close. I mean, that can simply come down to ride height at the same time. If you've got those raised curbs, it can very much unbalance the car, which all these drivers certainly don't want. We've seen a couple of cars pivot during the course of qualifying, and many of the drivers were trying to get used to the nuances of this Pingtan circuit. Like I said, whilst it is frequented on the calendars of GT Endurance in China and also F4 Chinese Championships, it's not irregular in multiple times through the season. And we see a slow car just pulled up to the left. Now, hang on a minute. Is that's not who I think it is it? That's a silver class driver, Darrell Young. It was in second place. If I'm not mistaken, that's his car. It looks like a Mercedes to me. Let's take a look. Yes, that's Darrell Young, who has come to a grinding halt here and has basically handed the place over to Cao Zhulong, I believe, into second. So a massive heart-stopping moment for Darrell Young, who was second fastest out of qualifying, and I think has now found himself dropping from P2 down through the order. So a massive mystery as to what's happened there, but great news for Wang Hao, who's now back onto the podium places and into P3. But that essentially gives Han Liqiao an incredible gap, but between he and P2 now at this time. Not that it wasn't big enough before. It was 3.4 as now we see them make their way down through towards the next left-hander. We have got a yellow flag at turn 3, so the drivers will have to rain caution through that part of the circuit. And yes, indeed, Darrell Young started to filter downwards through this 20-car grid contingent, now currently registered in P6 as we are seeing it. So now Moritz Berenberg up into 4th, and we're watching Berenberg now still defending against Chuang Chi-shun, and it looks like Darrell Young, there he is, still stagnated on the left-hand side of our screens as they made their way through turns 3 and turns 4. But a devastating moment for Darrell Young, who is showing so much promise through this weekend, and is, of course, a real star of this grid if you consider his phenomenal achievements in the Bathurst 12-hour, becoming a winner of that back in 2011 and 2012, and also a winner in the Greater Bay Area GT Cup GT3 in 2023. He was a winner of that too, but unable to offer his full prowess against Han Liqiao this time, as the battle for the AM lead now starts to pick up once again. Here comes now Chuang Chi-shun side by side here with Moritz Berenberg as they now go side by side through towards the next left, and through goes Chuang Chi-shun ahead of Moritz Berenberg now and takes the lead of the AM class with just under 14 minutes to go. Got another slow car as well. That's a Lotus Emira. I'm pretty sure that's probably just to let the other cars through, I think, at this point, or whether they've just taken the yellow flags a bit too literally, I think, at this stage, believing it's a full course yellow. That is a possibility, as now we see a car do make its way into the pits. That was indeed the Lotus Emira. Back comes Berenberg again, looking to take his 4th place spot back. Got very tight into the curb, and there was very, very nearly a collision between these two heading through the first sector on this new lap. And we've got a big tyre failure up at the front as well, and it looks like there's been some substantial bodywork damage. Goodness me, so yet more carnage here at Pingtan. And I must say, starting to pick up here. We said it's a very tricky circuit. Let's have a look at this again. This is the replay coming down. That's the number 77 of the RPM Racing Team's Lau Kim Hu in the Ginetta G55 GT4. And the driver exposed to the elements as the door has come away from its hinges, and quite clearly a tyre failure on his car, and the smoke, as you can see, protruding from the front right, I should say. And he brings the car into the pits, and the safety car is out on track. So the wave yellows now from the marshals, as now we come down to the final 12 minutes of racing. We got 3 silver drivers left at the top of the shop, with Han Liqiao ahead of Cao Zhulong and Wang Hao in 3rd place as well. Chuang Chi-shun still leading the AM class. Now, this is good news for Moritz Berenberg, and at the same time great news for Wang Hao. Of course, he was somewhat disconnected, and it throws a potential opportunity to the likes of Cao Zhulong as well as Wang Hao to challenge Han Liqiao for the overall race lead, because now the delta that Han Liqiao had managed to pull together through the initial stint of the race can now rein it back in and open up a potential battle. There is Li Jiting's Team Pegasus Lotus. Of course, we did see it, pretty much treading water down through the back straight coming out of turn 13. So now it looks like Darrell Young is walking away very solemnly away from his Mercedes. It's now parked up on the left-hand side, and that could have been a podium in the palm of his hands. He's going to be so disappointed after that one.
weekend certainly was showing a great deal of promise for him. But unfortunately, it's become somewhat for naught, and the marshals will now look to deal with the stricken car that is still there out on the track at turns 3 and turns 4. As we now watch them make their way through behind the safety car this time, Han Liqiao still in front with Cao Zulong back to the Lotus Emira that's in the pits, and quite evidently you can see the rear bumper ripped off from the car from the number 20 from Team Pegasus, Li Jiting, who didn't have the easiest of qualifying. We did speak to him as well, of course, with Feline speaking to him on the grid prior to us getting off the line, starting 13th on the grid, which of course Miguel Ley currently sits in at the moment. And the number 81 car in the Audi R8 LMS GT4 Evo. There's still that little bit of bodywork. I can only imagine that rear bodywork was part of that same Lotus. I mean, it's the same color. I'm only theorizing here at this point, but I would say the similarities are key. And as you can see from the sister Lotus Emira, it looks relatively similar, so I wouldn't be surprised if they are linked. Coming in off the back of that, but Han Liqiao still leads the race at the moment, has now been caught up by Cao Zulong as well as Wang Hao as well. And we're just waiting for that Mercedes AMG GT4 to be cleared up too, with 9 minutes and 50 to go. But a very busy race and a titanic battle over the AM lead as well. There is Can Che Wei's car, the 778 Autosport team, that not only are racing in this championship, but we'll also be seeing them later on as well as part of race 2 in the Pingtan Macau Challenge as well. And they came out race winners, of course, yesterday with Lopak Yu and, of course, double podiums when you factor in Lopak Lai as well. So it's been a Jekyll and Hyde weekend so far for 778 Autosport on one level. They've been quite promising in the Pingtan Macau Challenge, but on the other hand, it's been a bit of a trickier venture for them in the SRO GT Cup. But that's the beauty of motorsport. It carries certainly many moments where you are going to face challenges, and racing drivers know that better than most, as now we watch as the 99 of Wong Wai Hong in the Mercedes AMG GT4 now makes his way through the field to the lap cars, now being given free rein by the looks of it to overtake the safety car and regather their place out on circuit. Of course, we witnessed the demise of Darrell Young's Mercedes, and now we see him on the side of the course, obviously so despondent with what has happened here today. It could have been so different for him. At the very least, a second place finish on the podium, and I'm sure that would have meant a lot to him, but it's not going to come this time. Now the cars kick on now, still under safety car procedure at the moment, and many of those rear markers now being allowed to go through and rejoin up with the rest of the grid. But it's the number 33 that is the lead car, and that is Han Liqiao, our race leader, who came out of pole, the P1 sitter as well, and was alongside Darrell Young, who unfortunately came to a stop. Han Liqiao with plenty of experience as a Greater Bay Area GT Cup winner of 2024, and it would have been so thrilling to see our two winners in the Greater Bay GT Cup over the last 2 years come side by side. But unfortunately, it's not going to happen this time. The one who's going to prevail this time is Han Liqiao. But Cao Zulong in the number 89, of course, featuring inside the top two at the moment, has also been racing in TCR China in the Taipei series over the last 2 years, and it certainly hasn't done him any harm. He is racing certainly very solidly at the moment, featuring in second place, just ahead of Wang Hao right now. We've got the marshals now out on track, just clearing up that debris that was left through the course of turn 2, turn 3 and turn 4. So very soon the Lotus Emira will be reunited with its lost body part, and they can get that covered back up again. I'm sure they'll probably end up putting a fresh one on anyway, or at least covering it by some other means. We do have another race, like I said, coming up later on this afternoon. Just a reminder of our schedule. Of course, we do have our next race coming up later on today. You certainly don't want to miss that. It's going to be a major fight, I'm sure. between these drivers. I'll have to wait and see whether Han Liqiao can go back-to-back. Once again, of course, first of all, he's got to win this race and keep behind Cao Zhu-Leng, who I'm sure will be looking to take this opportunity and grasp it by both hands, as now we see Darrell Young get back into his Mercedes, as the tow truck is there to take it away. Obviously looking to keep it in gear, I can imagine, and just help it roll into a safe position so that we can resume racing once again. We've got just under 6 minutes to go, so the time to get those overtakes in will be coming littler and littler by the moment. Coming through the first few corners, there is the 89 of Cao Zhu-Leng, getting a really good start to this race and putting himself in a great position to attack our race leader now. But there will be others that I think are going to look to gamble a little bit more. There's a replay of the number 20 that came to a grinding halt with the rear end missing off the car. And of course we did see a little bit of a moment as well with the 77 of Lau Kim Hu making a little bit of contact in his Ginetta G55 GT4, which led, I think, to the puncture on the front right. And there you can see the smoke really started to protrude away from the front right of it, and also the door then eventually losing its hinges and coming away towards the front end. As we now rejoin live pictures here with the marshal waving the yellow flags on the side of the circuit. There is our highest placed BMW further back as well. Of course, BMW represented by the Zon Veng racing team, driven by Leong Ian Veng, who is a Macau Road Sport Challenge winner from 2015. And once again, that prowess around a street circuit, very useful in street scenarios like this as well. Of course, the sole BMW we are seeing in this championship this weekend as well, as they come through the fast left and rights through turns 11, 12 and 13 once more. And then down the back straight leading through towards turn 14, where they'll meet the pit-in markers, but of course not take them. They'll be heading through towards the next left and towards the start-finish line once again. 4 minutes to go until we see the checkered flag. The safety car still taking them down through towards turn 1. And obviously, if we look back at the results from our last meeting that we, of course, had as well, of course, in terms of the AM class, we do mention Moritz Berenberg as being a 100% or holding a 100% record so far in terms of race wins off the back of our opening round back at the Chinese Grand Prix weekend at Shanghai in March. There are others looking to return and score the big points. Chuang Chi-shun, of course, is another one to watch, who could yet come away with his first win in class of the season, and that'll be off the back of finishing 5th and 6th back at Shanghai in race 1 and race 2, as they now gather the Mercedes that was left on the side of the track of Darrell Young, wheeling into that safe position off track. So well done the marshals on clearing that up. Hopefully it won't be long before we can at least get perhaps maybe just one lap in this race. We will of course wait and see. It could very easily finish under the safety car, but we'll keep you posted, folks, as to what race control decide to do. I can confirm that the safety car is coming in this lap, so as soon as we spoke, the safety car peels away. It looks like there's some massive smoke protruding from one of the cars there. A little bit of brake smoke, I think, as they, all got a little bit clouded through that portion of circuit through turn 10. And now the weaving commences to try and maintain the heat in the tyres. It's Han Liqiao at the head of the order, met with Cao Zhu-Leng. He's going to need a really good getaway here to maintain the lead of this race. But Liqiao, very prudent in these situations, had a really solid race start to get us underway. As we look back into the garages, the Toyota Gazoo Racing China team watching on in hopes that their man can bring it home. They've still got a huge opportunity to bring home some massive points with a 1 and 3 finish, and this is exactly how they started as well, as they now come around the final corner now, and Han Liqiao not wasting any time. The safety car in now, and it's pedal to the metal for the second time in this race now. Han Liqiao takes them down through towards turn 1. Cao Zhu-Leng still in second place. Car 21 of Wang Hao further back as well, just forming up in behind in third. Then we have our AM leader, Chuang Shun ahead of Moritz Berenberg, also looking for a good start. More tyre smoke being lifted as now already Wang Hao on the attack and might yet move into that second place spot, unable to get it done. Here comes Moritz Berenberg around the outside. He's going to go for the AM lead. Can't get the car stopped, or can he? He got it stopped too quickly, far too much as well, and has forfeited that chance to take the AM lead. And at the moment it looks like that Chuang Shun has held on to that 4th spot as well. Our race leader Han Liqiao just making his way round, but as they now come through the first of the sectors, now weaving through towards the next left, a bit of a mix-up there, I think, between drivers. Yellow flag still being waved, still under the safety car right now, it seems, as they come through turn 10, and now down through towards turn 14 once more. Waved yellow still on the left-hand side, so the drivers do have to adhere to those as Han Liqiao takes them through the realms of turn 11, 12 and 13. But foot still largely planted to the floor, with Cao Zulung now following on. The LED board still flashing yellow as well as they come down towards the next left-hander at turn 14 as well. But it's Han Liqiao, your race leader, as they now look to come up towards the line and get this race restarted. Green flags now waved, and they'll now be able to go full on pedal to the metal now for the second time in this race. And the top 5 as a result have now peeled away. Han Liqiao with the lead spot as Cao Zulung still sits in second. Further back, Wang Hao as well as Chuang Shun. Moritz Berenberg on the tail of this. So we've got the AM battle, and we've also got the lead silver battle as now we watch as Chuang Shun looks to take on Wang Hao now over 3rd place. And that's a stunning line coming through that left-hander, and the Audi moves its way onto the podium places. Brilliant move from Chuang Shun in the Audi R8 LMS GT4. And now hunting after Cao Zulung, who is now also fighting Han Liqiao for the race lead here at Pingtan. And Moritz Berenberg still not out of this either. He still might lift himself ahead of Chuang Shun, who once again has a very difficult restart to accompany the difficult start that he had at the very top of this race. Well, Han Liqiao, now as the timer has ticked to 0, he will be looking to bring this race home on this very lap. This is the final lap of asking, as they now look to make their way through the next right-hander. Now coming through the chicane of sorts, it is still the Audi in that 3rd place, but Chuang Shun holding his own at the moment. Wang Hao right on his tail as they now come around turn 14 once again. And as they take the checkered flag, it's Han Liqiao who takes victory in race 1 here in the SRO GT Cup. Race 1 here at Pingtan. Cao Zulung finishing in 2nd, with Chuang Shun not only taking the win in the AM class, but he also takes an overall podium, as now we see an off moment as well for a car further back. More checkered flags taken. The BMW belonging to Liang and Weng coming home ahead as well. And of course, further back in that top 4, Wang Hao, 4th place off the podium, just ahead of Moritz Berenberg, who finishes 2nd in AM class. Liang and Weng managing to take that 3rd spot in AM too, with the power of that BMW GT4. So it's grasped him an AM class podium at the end of all that. But well done, Han Liqiao. That's a tremendous victory to correspond from the one at Shanghai. He goes back-to-back in the last 2 races. So it's 2 victories, one after the other, and you'll be looking to carry that through as well to race 2 coming up later on this afternoon. You certainly don't want to miss it. Brilliant job for the Toyota Gazoo racing team that, of course, will witness one car coming home in 1st and the other coming home in 4th as well. As now Han Liqiao makes his way around turn 10. Very soon he will of course come through the chicane and then into Parc Fermé after entering the pits coming out of the turn 14 section. But enjoying the moments around this very scenic circuit. It is overlooked by the vast skyscrapers here around the Pingtan here at the Rui Lake International City Circuit. A masterful performance, and once again not just flexing the pace over qualifying, he was able to translate that into race pace as well for a 2nd time this season to grasp him a victory this time around. And important to note that his best lap was a 1:21.088, which was just over a second away from his fastest qualifying time. So just as quick, as I said, in race trim. As now they come through Parc Fermé, through the pit lane, and will stand tall on the markers. Han Liqiao back on top here in the number 33 Toyota GR Supra GT4 Evo. And it's going to be all smiles for a man who still wasn't sold after his performance in qualifying. He felt that there was still more to give. But despite being ahead by 0.6 of a second, I think he needed to see it in the race, and he is absolutely delighted. Can't quite see in his helmet, but it looks like there is a smile there and a big hug with his team. Wonderful job by the Toyota team, and they'll be absolutely thrilled with that. They have got off the mark here this weekend in Pingtan, here in the SRO GT Cup. And he will, of course, be joined by Cao Zhulong in second place. A fantastic performance by Cao Zhulong, who's also managed to marshal together a good performance. He's joined by his teammates as well, Wang Hao, who finished 4th place at the end of the race. And the team as a whole at Toyota Gazoo Racing China will now gather together and celebrate another astonishing victory. Obviously, a team as a whole, Toyota, have done so well in the world of prototype racing, but also in sports cars, especially here in the nation of China and across Asia as a whole as well. They've done a remarkable job. Of course, Toyota massive in the world of motorsport, and whether it be historically through the realms of Formula One, working with such great drivers over the many years. Of course, we've got Kamui Kobayashi currently driving in the SRO GT 24 Hours of Spa at the moment. It's a truly remarkable performance by Han Liqiao, and will certainly serve them well through the course of this season. Of course, remember, still one more race to come up later on, and then we have the 2 rounds before we reach the end of the season. And Han Liqiao is standing by with Feline for an interview.
韩立超，恭喜你拿到本场比赛的冠军，跟我们大家聊一下你这场比赛的心路历程吧。
其实发车的时候发现，欧阳其实那个，凶的感觉还是很在线的。然后，毕竟是前辈，也是很经验很丰富的车手，所以，当然，既然在赛场上，大家下面是朋友，然后既然在赛场上呢，我肯定也不会让。所以发车其实算是挺顺利的。然后后面可能欧阳的车有了一些问题，然后我也顺利的带开。后来出现安全车，然后也顺利的能把这个第1带回，我觉得很开心。
Congratulations! I just asked Han Liqiao about how does he feel about this race. He said that he felt a little bit of pressure from Dario Yang in the beginning, but after that, with the safety car, he felt very smooth to get the win. He's very happy. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Feline. And yes, certainly, I think the big moment was, of course, the loss of Dario Young earlier on, where his car came to a standstill. It just allowed, obviously, Han Liqiao to carry on and confirm that race lead and turn it into an overall victory after all of that. But a massive, massive performance by all those concerned. And obviously, the drivers themselves have done themselves credit here in the SRO GT Cup in this inaugural 2025 campaign. And of course, our top 3 will later be standing tall on the podium. We've got to give credit as well to our winning AM driver as well. Of course, Chuang Chi Shun managing to pull together a really astonishing victory in terms of the AM class, finishing ahead of a very, very talented Moritz Berenberg, who was pushing him all the way. But the Audi R8 LMS GT4 Evo proving to have enough on the day to be able to take that AM class win, and he'll be standing tall on the top step on the podium. So a tremendous job. And now we can head back to Feline for yet another interview in Parc Fermé.
周女士，恭喜你拿到了这个 M 组别的冠军。自己这场比赛感觉如何？
感觉很刺激啊，因为毕竟这一场有心态是所以稍微 push 一点，但是有点 over push，所以有几个地方冲出去了。但是整体表现是还不错，整个 pace 都还不错，相当满意。
好，恭喜你，再次恭喜。
谢谢。
好，I just asked him how does he feel about this race. He said he pushed a little bit too hard, but the result is very bad, very good. So he's very happy with the result. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much, Feline. And yes, obviously all smiles there as well. Great efforts all around, and especially, as I said, in the AM class, Chuang Chi Shun giving a great account in the Audi R8 LMS and managing to take that P1 spot. And what a remarkable drive it was as well on his part. And no question we'll see him back again fighting for some big wins. That is, of course, his first podium of the season as well in the AM class. As we said, coming off the back of our last round, he last finished in 6th place and then 5th prior to that. So not only his first step onto the podium in AM class, but also as a winner as well. We can also take a look back at the highlights from that race. A tremendous job from all those getting off the line. The front two, though, kicked on clear. It was Han Le Chao and also Daolo Young, who were side by side on the run down through towards turn 1. A very busy helter-skelter moment, though, coming through the first few corners. Moritz Berenberg actually doing a great job of really pressurizing the second of the Toyota Gazoo Racing Asia team drivers. Wang Hao eventually losing places down into 5th. We had side-by-side, so still making their way through the track. Wang Hao eventually getting past Moritz Berenberg, and also getting past Moritz Berenberg was Chuang Chi Shun, who gave certainly a big, astonishing performance, so eventually would have his odd slip as well, just stepping out that rear end on that Audi R8 LMS to then put himself under threat from Moritz Berenberg, and it would become worse. It exacerbated when he made his way onto the grass, but managed to at least regather himself for yet another attack later on. We saw a big tyre blowout later on as well. The Ginetta coming under pressure after a little bit of contact with the Mercedes out on circuit. You can just see there the smoke billowing out of the front right on the Ginetta in that front right side, as you can see the door coming away from the hinges too on the number 77 that of course belonged to the RPM racing team of Lau Kim Hu as well out on track. But at the front of the order, Han Le Chao was tough to stop. We did, of course, lose as well Daolo Young earlier on with a failure on his Mercedes, but it would be victory for Han Le Chao for back-to-back races as he went on to win here in Pingtan, something that, of course, I'm sure he will enjoy, at least for now, until he goes racing again for race 2 later on today. But a brilliant, brilliant effort. And now we cut across to our SRO GT Cup Pingtan podium spot, where we'll see the top 3 overall now receiving their trophies. And of course, not forgetting the AM class as well. But here we celebrate our race winners. Of course, as now they stand tall, this is the silver class podium that we are currently seeing. Of course, remember Chuang Chi Shun finishing 3rd overall. But remember, of course, it was he was representing AM class. He is, of course, the highest AM. There is Han Le Chao, though, your race winner, who will stand tall alongside Cao Zhu Lung and also Chuang Chi Shun as well. And all smiling faces there as the trophies are presented. First, the 3rd place prize, heading first to Wang Hao, finished on the 3rd step of the podium. 2nd place prize going to Cao Zhu Lung as well. The Pirelli representative now presenting the winning trophy to Han Le Chao, your race winner here in race 1, here in silver class. Magnificent performance for the Toyota Gazoo Racing China driver. And now they stand tall for a picture as well. The photographers have to get their necessaries in, of course. Now stepping off the podium, they'll be looking ahead now to our next race coming up later on this afternoon. But really does help the confidence after a race around a very technical and tricky street circuit, then to come away with the top prizes. It always just settles the stomach a little bit before you go racing again. Here is the final result. It's Han Le Chao, your winner, come the end of race 1 as well, with Cao Zhu Lung in 2nd place for Level Motorsports. Chuang Chi Shun finishing 3rd overall as well, ahead of Wang Hao, who still stood on the 3rd spot of the silver podium. Moritz Berenberg 2nd in AM, 5th overall, with Leon Ian Veng in 6th as well. Zai Chang Ta in 7th place, ahead of Huang Kusheng in 8th for Team Pegasus. Then we have the AM podium that's about to come up now as well. So here we go. This is, of course, going to be and feature our silver, or should we say our AM winner, Chuang Chi Shun, on the top step of the AM class podium. Of course, Moritz Berenberg, 2nd place, the German, not quite able to make it 3 in a row. But there is our AM class winner, who just a moment ago was speaking to Feilin. Delighted with his performance, had a few helter-skelter scary moments, but managed to recover it very well indeed. That's exactly what the best drivers can do in World Motorsport, as the Pirelli representative presents the 3rd place trophy to our 3rd place driver here out on track. With Chuang Chi-shun receiving his first podium result and also his first winner's trophy for the first time alongside Maurice Berenberg as well. Son Veng Racing Team celebrating with Leong Ian Veng as well in third place. That is your trio standing tall on the AM class podium here this time as they now get their pictures taken with the Pirelli caps on as well. The champagne there, are they going to spray it now? There seems to be a little bit of a discussion. They don't want to spray each other because obviously they need to be back in the overalls for the second race coming up later on this afternoon. So they're going to spray it straight at the photographers, I'm sure, this time around. No, I think Chuang Chi-shun would rather drink it than spray it. What he wants to save of Maurice Berenberg, very keen to certainly spray the champagne, and for good reason as well. So well done to our top three in AM class, walking away with trophies under their belts. Chuang Chi-shun will have to keep our eye on him in the Audi R8 LMS GT4. Sure, he'll be looking to come back once more, and they have got more pictures that they do want to take. But I'm sure a result that Chuang Chi-shun will treasure for a long, long time. But fantastic race to kick off the race day here at Pingtan, the Rui Lake International City Circuit. The skyscrapers over the top as well, this very picturesque part of the world. And of course, the cars will be making their way back out on track later on once again. But after a race like that, it would be rude not to look back at some of the moments that we did witness. So let's have a little look back at what happened during the course of the race as they got underway. Very good start by our two front row sitters. It would, of course, though, be Han Le Chao leading them off from the front end of the order. Eventually, then, he would be tackled by Darrell Young, but Darrell Young wasn't quite able to really lift himself through the first corner, and up ahead of Han Le Chao, the Toyota Gazoo Racing China driver managed to marshal off his charge. Maurice Berenberg also managed to get his way past Wang Hao, who fell a fleet of positions, but Wang Hao putting on a great effort to retort back straight away. There was then a big battle over the AM lead, which eventually fell the way of Chuang Chi-shun, who would also later move his way into P3 overall, but more importantly, it was to get ahead of Maurice Berenberg in the AM class lead fight, which he did manage to do, though eventually finding himself into the grass, allowing Berenberg back through in the process. Then in came the Ginetta that came to a little bit of a stopper, the 77, unfortunately coming to a very sudden halt of Lau Kim Hao, and that led to the puncture on the front right hand, with the door eventually coming away from the front end of its hinges. And of course, the driver just looking, I think, to get some fresh air inside the car as well at the same time as the 33 that led all the way. Darrell Young's car, of course, came to a grinding halt. He forfeited that P2 spot, giving Han Le Chao the confidence of just focusing on what was ahead of him. Managed to lift his way through past the back marker cars, but of course, after the safety car, he took the checkered flag, and victory for Toyota Gazoo Racing China. And a result that I'm sure he'll be absolutely thrilled with, making it 2 race wins back-to-back. And no question, he's going to be looking to make it 3 in a row as well when we head into race 2 later on this afternoon. But as you can now see, a very busy circuit. Again, plenty more cars to head out onto this street circuit here in China. And obviously, we've got plenty of racing to bring you through the course of this season. A little reminder, of course, we started in Shanghai. We are here in Pingtan, Beijing, still to come as well for rounds or races 5 and 6 in round 3. Of course, later on, round 4, when we head to the great city of Macau as well, where we'll be once again racing in street circuit conditions as well. Still the championship in its very early stages. We could see some vast changes throughout the results through the course of this season, so you do not want to miss a thing. Make sure you stay tuned in to all the action throughout the course of the day. We will, of course, be back later on this afternoon, so be sure to join us. But from all of us here at Pingtan, it's goodbye.